So, well, you sent over the Safe Pet Cover podcast episode,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called Why Pet Insurance is a Lifesaver for Your Beloved Pets.
Yeah.
Kind of bold statement, don't you think?
A little bit, yeah. It definitely grabs your attention.
Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna, dive into it, see what they're really saying, like what are the benefits? Is it actually a lifesaver?
Right.
All that good stuff. What really stood out to me, I don't know if you remember this part, but they start with this like really personal story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that was one of the most powerful parts of the whole episode. The host, I think it was the male host, talks about his dog, Chewy,
Oh yeah,
getting
Chew.
really sick.
Yeah.
And it just like immediately sets the stage for, why this is such an important topic.
Yeah, and how like emotionally charged it can be, right? Like they couldn't afford the treatment for Chewy because they didn't have pet insurance.
Exactly. And it makes you think, what if that was my pet?
Totally. And, I think they really emphasize that emotional aspect throughout the whole episode. They keep saying that pet insurance isn't just about paying vet bills.
Right. It's about peace of mind.
Exactly. Like knowing that you can actually say yes to any treatment your pet might need.
And not having to make those tough decisions based on finances.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nobody wants to be in that position. But, they do get into the nuts and bolts of it too. Like, what does pet insurance actually cover?
Yeah, they break it down really well. They talk about emergency coverage.
Which makes sense, right? Because accidents happen, illnesses pop up out of nowhere. You never know.
And those unexpected vet visits can be, really expensive.
Oh, absolutely. Then they talk about return care coverage. Like some plans actually offer that, which is kind of cool. So it covers things like annual checkups, vaccinations.
Preventative treatments.
Yeah, it's like a wellness plan for your pet.
Which can actually save you money in the long run because, catching things early is always better.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like being proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we've got the emergency coverage, the routine care, but they also talk about the financial security aspect, which I think is something a lot of people worry about. Like, what if your pet needs a really expensive procedure?
Right, and you're not prepared for it.
Exactly. I mean, you don't want to drain your savings or go into debt because of a vet bill. So they're saying pet insurance can be like a safety net.
Yeah, safety net for your finance.
Exactly. So you can actually focus on your pet's health and not be stressing about the money.
It takes away that added layer of worry.
For sure. And then remember how they talked about customizable plans?
Oh, yeah, I think that's super important.
Especially, thinking about your situation.
Yeah.
Because everyone's different, every pet's different. Like maybe your pet has specific needs or you're on a tight budget.
Exactly. So being able to tailor your coverage
Mm.
to your specific situation is huge.
Yeah, you get to choose what makes the most sense for you, which is pretty cool.
And that brings up a really interesting question, What's the cost of not having pet insurance?
Oh, that's a good point. I mean, we've all heard those horror stories about crazy vet bills.
Yeah.
Like thousands of dollars, tens of thousands sometimes.
Right. And it's not just the financial stress either. It's the emotional stress too. Having to make those tough decisions, based on what you can afford, not necessarily what's best for your pet.
Yeah, that's a really hard place to be. And that's kind of where they bring it back to that emotional core of the whole thing, They keep reminding you that pet insurance allows you to act out of love.
Instead of limitations.
Right. Because you're not limited by your finances when you have to make those difficult decisions.
And they use that story about Chewy, to really drive that point home.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, hey, you don't want to be in that situation. You want to be able to focus on what's best for your pet.
And on that bond that you share.
Exactly. Speaking of that bond, they talk about how pet insurance gives you peace of mind. But, is that really the main benefit? Or is that just some marketing thing? You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's both. I mean, think about it. Wouldn't you feel more relaxed knowing that you're covered? Like if something happens to your pet, you don't have to worry about the financial burden.
Yeah, I guess I would. It's like having that safety net that we were talking about before.
Exactly.
Yeah, like you wouldn't have to make those tough decisions, right? Like, can I afford this treatment?
Exactly. And you know what they brought up? Some people are like, well, why not just set aside money each month? Like, create your own little pet insurance fund.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that, like the whole self-insure thing. But isn't that kind of risky?
It can be. You have to be super disciplined. And you know what? If something major happens before you've saved enough.
Exactly. Like, what if your pet needs surgery, like right away? You might not have enough saved up yet.
Right. And vet costs, they keep going up, It's like trying to hit a moving target.
Totally. Plus inflation, like everything's getting more expensive. So even if you are saving, it might not be enough. It's interesting, though, because they did mention that some people think the premiums for pet insurance can add up.
Right, like you might end up paying more than you ever claim back.
Yeah, I guess that's a risk with any type of insurance, though, right?
Exactly. It's all
Yeah.
about risk tolerance.
Yeah.
Some people are okay with that. They just want the peace of mind.
Yeah, like it's like buying an extended warranty. Some people love those, some people hate them. It's really personal preference. But I think the bigger point is that pet insurance isn't like the only thing you should be doing.
Right. It's part of being a responsible pet owner, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, like regular vet checkups, good nutrition, exercise, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Taking care of your pet's overall well-being.
And speaking of making good decisions, they also talk about doing your research, like really comparing different plans.
Oh, yeah, because they're definitely not all created equal, are they? No, not at all.
Yeah.
You have to look at the deductible, the reimbursement percentage, what's covered, what's not covered, and that's why those customizable plans are so cool.
Yeah, because you can really personalize it.
Exactly. Make sure it fits your needs, your pet's needs. And you know what? I think you'd really appreciate this part. They talk about how some people are, they like to jump in head first, get the first plan they see.
Yeah, I'm not that type of person.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
You strike me as someone who does their homework. Like, really weighs the options.
Oh, definitely. I like to know what I'm getting into. And, I also want to make sure I'm getting the best deal.
Well, they have this really great tip about breed-specific coverage. Did you catch that part?
Breed specific. Not sure I remember that. What's that about?
So basically, some plans will actually take into account, like, health issues that are common for certain breeds.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like, for example, if you have a bulldog, they're prone to breathing problems, right? So you'd want a plan that specifically covers that. So it's like getting coverage that's tailored to your pet's genes.
That makes sense. So it's not just about peace of mind. It's about getting the right kind of coverage.
Exactly. And I think that's what they really wanted to get across in this episode. Like, it's about being informed, understanding what you're actually buying.
Not just blindly trusting, whatever the insurance company tells you.
Right. And I actually really like that about this episode. They weren't trying to hard sell you on anything. It was more about, like, empowering pet owners to make the best choices.
Yeah, like giving you the information and letting you decide. Which I appreciate because, whenever something sounds too good to be true.
Right. There's usually a catch.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they were pretty upfront about the downsides, too. Like, pet insurance isn't perfect, right?
Right. There are definitely things to consider, like, those monthly premiums. They can add up, especially if you have multiple pets. And like we said before, there's no guarantee that you'll actually use it. You might end up paying more than you claim back.
Yeah, it's a gamble. But then again, so is a lot of stuff in life, right?
Very true. It's about mitigating risk,
Yeah.
when it comes to your pet's health.
Yeah.
So you got to weigh the pros and cons.
Okay, so we've talked about the benefits, the downsides, the emotional side of things. But, bottom line, is pet insurance worth it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I don't think there's one right answer for everyone.
So what are we supposed to do? Just, flip a coin?
Not quite. Remember all that stuff we talked about with doing your research? This is where that comes in.
Okay, so, what's the next step? Give me some actionable advice.
All right, so they had this great advice about choosing the right plan, make sure it covers not just accidents and illnesses, but also, like, hereditary conditions, general stuff.
Oh, right, because those can be really expensive, especially with certain breeds.
Exactly. And another thing, check if the plan covers exam fees.
Oh, good point. Because those can add up, too, like if your pet needs to see the vet a lot.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really personalized. You got to think about your financial situation. Like, what can you afford? How much risk are you comfortable with?
Right. Like, maybe I'm okay with a higher deductible if it means my monthly payments are lower.
Exactly. Or maybe you'd rather pay more each month, so you only have a small out-of-pocket expense if something happens. It's all about finding that balance.
Yeah, what works for you. But it sounds like there's more to it than just the price, right?
Oh, absolutely. They said to look into the company's reputation, their customer service. Like, how easy is it to file a claim? Because you don't want to be dealing with a bunch of hassle when you're already stressed about your pet.
Right, that's the last thing you need. So it's like read the fine print, check reviews, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Exactly. Being informed is key,
Okay, so we've covered a lot. I'm feeling a bit more informed already. But, how do I actually find the right plan, for me and my pet?
Well, that's the great thing about this Safe Pet Cover podcast. They actually give you tools to do that. Like they have resources to help you compare plans, get quotes, find what's best for your situation.
So they're not just all talk. They actually give you like actionable steps.
Right. And you know what else? They suggested talking to your vet.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because your vet knows your pet.
Hmm.
Right. They know their breed, their health history.
Right. Like it's like getting a second opinion from someone who really knows what's up.
Exactly. It's all about gathering as much information as you can before making that decision.
Yeah, that's smart. Like they're actually trying to help you out, not just sell you something.
Exactly. And they even said, like, talk to your vet too,
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
because they know your pet's breed, their history, all that.
Right. Like they're the expert on your specific pet.
Exactly. So it's just like, oh, another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, gathering all the info before you jump in.
Right.
Okay, well, I think they got a pretty good case for at least thinking about pet insurance.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. They really broke it down well.
Like all the stuff we talked about.
Yeah.
The emotional side, the practical stuff, even like how to choose a plan. It didn't feel overwhelming,
No, they explained it all really clearly.
Yeah, like they weren't talking over people's heads or anything.
Right. And I like that they emphasized doing your research, like making your own decision.
It wasn't like you have to get pet insurance.
No, it was more like, here's what you should know. Now you decide.
Exactly. I have to admit, I was a little skeptical at first, but I'm definitely seeing it in a new light now.
It's the power of learning, right?
Yeah, it can totally change your perspective. So, as we wrap this up, what's like the one big thing you want to leave people with? About pet insurance.
Okay. I want you to imagine this. Your pet needs serious medical care. It could be anything, right? An accident, a long-term illness, whatever. Think about those decisions you'd have to make.
Yeah, tough decisions.
And the financial side of it. Could you handle those bills? Now, imagine having pet insurance. Would that make it easier?
To like focus on my pet and not the money.
Exactly. That's the question I want you to think about.
That's a really good point. It's not just about the numbers. It's about like having that peace of mind.
Exactly. And being able to make the best choices for your pet no matter what.
Well, that's a great note to end on. Thanks for breaking it all down with me.
Of course. Always happy to chat about pets.
And, thanks to everyone for listening to this deep dive. We hope you learned something new today.
And remember, knowledge is power. So go out there, do your research, and make the best decision for you and your furry friend.